All right, back with an Orioles update here. So I'm in March 2026. So I think the last update I was in October or so of 25, maybe November. Um, and the off season was just getting started. I might have even actually been in December. I can't remember. Not much had happened in the off season. And so now I'm through the off season and I'm a bit into spring training, and I figured I'd update with what happened in the off season and kind of what's going on in spring training so far before I come back next time with a season preview post. So just to go to the off-season center here and just to look at the off-season summary by team, just in terms of they rank the teams by the wins above replacement, the WAR gained. The Dodgers with 8.1 WAR gained, they're already a dynasty, and then the Red Sox, an AL East team, adding 6.2, and I came in fourth with 3.3 WAR added. And down at the bottom, who's bringing up the rear? The Cardinals lost 6.8 wins. So anyways, just to look real quick, the Dodgers added, I think, a couple really good hitters. It's basically what they did. Boston added a whole bunch of pitching. Look at all these pitchers they added, mainly relievers, and then they added a starter named Jack Flaherty, who you might remember for pitching for the Orioles last 2 seasons until I traded him at the trade deadline to the Cardinals, and he did end up opting out of his contract at season end, and he ended up signing a 5-year deal with the Cardinals. 5 years, 24.8 million, and opted out after year 3. I think that's might be the exact salary he had 2 years left on that he opted out of. So he got himself 3 more years. But anyways, back to the important stuff. The Orioles. Who'd we sign? We signed Scott Barlow. So I lost a lot of relievers last year at the deadline. I dealt a few, and then I lost a couple, I think maybe to free agency. And so basically, I needed a couple steady, solid major league relievers to supplement my bullpen. So Scott Barlow was one guy I brought in. He put up .5 WAR last year with Milwaukee in 78 innings, a 2.87 ERA with a 4.04 FIP. He doesn't really strike many guys out, only 6.5 K per nine, but he keeps the ball in the yard. And I signed him because of his movement rating. I'm really doing my best to cut down on home runs in Camden Yards because it's just out of hand every season, and so I'm focusing on bringing in some pitchers with good movement ratings because that is one thing in out of the park that can help limit home runs is guys who have a lot of movement on their pitches. So Barlow's in, he's in the bullpen, signed to a 1-year, $3 million deal. 1-year deals were crucial for me because I have so many guys in arbitration or hitting free agency soon in the next year or two. So I didn't want to commit money beyond this year to many guys. I also signed Carson Kelly. I needed a backup catcher after dealing Rafael Marchand to San Diego in a trade I previewed, which I'll in my last post, which I'll get to in a minute. That full trade. So if you look at him, yeah, nothing too impressive here. He looks pretty terrible. Why would I sign this guy, right? Well, a few reasons. So he's pretty good defensively. He's got a 55, a 60 catcher ability, so he'll be fine. This is kind of the minimum that I look for in a catcher, but it's a 1-year, $950,000 deal. It's another thing he's going for him, and he's a captain, a leader, always like that, especially because I dealt Hayes, who was my captain, and he's put up 1.3, 1.2, and 0.4 WAR the last 3 seasons in Boston. Pretty much all defensively. He doesn't do much offensively, except the one thing that's really intriguing about him is if you look at his career runs created plus, he's got a 90 runs created plus, which for a backup catcher is not bad. If your backup catcher is a 10% below average hitter, that's fine. Of course, he only had a 64 runs created plus last year, but versus left-handed pitching in his career, he's got a 129 runs created plus. So against righties, he's got a 75, but he hits lefties super well. And as I've said a few times, my team sucks against lefties. And Adley Rutschman is still going to start for the most part against lefties, but he really struggled last year from that against lefties. So Kelly will see some starts there. Maybe like, 30 to 40% of the starts against lefties, and then Rutschman will start every day against righties. But we'll see. It gives me another option here. He's very good against lefties, which I needed, and that's the main reason I signed him, with also the fact that he was cheap and good defensively. It was a 1-year deal. So I brought in some minor leaguers. I'm going to skip over some names. Diego Castillo, I got him from the Yankees. The Yankees had too many relievers, and Castillo was really upset because he wasn't pitching in the back end of their bullpen, and he wanted to be. So they're basically giving him away for nothing. I didn't give him much, like a nobody prospect. But most importantly, he's only got 1 year at $2.6 million left, so that's why he really fit the bill. He put up .6 WAR last year for New York. He's a decent reliever. So you can see his Ks per nine are fine. 9.8 last year. We'll take that with an ERA of 3.52 and a FIP of 3.93. So he'll pitch maybe setup or middle relief, but another established bullpen arm who was only under contract for one more year is why I liked him. And then some more minor league guys I added. And then Patino and Bannon. This was the San Diego trade I previewed last time. It ended up being similar to what I talked about in my last post. But of course, the headliner was Luis Patino under contract for 3 more years, cheap, 9.5 to 11 million per year. The last 3 years, 4, 5, and 3.4 WAR, so a good starter. And another guy who's just got killer movement. So, killer movement on slider, a curveball. Hopefully he can keep the ball in the yard. His home runs per 9 will go up pitching Cam yards, but hopefully it'll be manageable. So he was the headliner. He might be my best starter at this point. I've got 3 guys who are kind of top end type pitchers, and he's in that discussion. And then of course I brought in Rylan Bannon, brought him back after a year away in San Diego. He's back. He'll be an infielder for me who's primarily backup, but he crushes lefties, so he'll play a bunch against lefties. So that's kind of who I brought in. And just to go over where things are right now in position battles for spring training, to the injured list kind of sets the stage for the position battles. Reese Albert, who is my starting right fielder, penciled in for the bulk of the starts there. He's out for 4 weeks from today, which is March 9th. So by the time he does rehab, he'll probably miss the first 2 to 3 weeks of the season. So right field job is up for grabs. Jaden Hill was not going to be on my team. He was a 4th overall pick of the Tigers several years ago, and I traded for him at the trade deadline last year because he was out for the rest of the year with a torn UCL. Well, he needed to have the surgery all over again, and he's out for another 10 months. So his career might be over at this point, but we'll see. And then this one's disappointing. Dylan Lawson, he was a 2021 round 14 pick for me, and a guy who's he's ready for a job at the major league level, but last year he tore his rotator cuff and didn't make it back until towards the end of the year. Only pitched, as you can see, about 40 innings between Norfolk and Baltimore for me last year, and now he's out for the first 2 months with elbow inflammation. So he's a guy who I think could really contribute to my team, maybe even eventually as a starter if he can stay healthy, but arm injuries 2 years in a row, not a good sign. So now to go to just how the team's shaping up for this season. This is all pretty similar, nothing unexpected. Rutschman, Mountcastle, Bowser at second, Matan, Henderson, Carlson, Rosario. Then right field, of course, is where there's a battle. Colin, and it's 4 left-handed bats, I guess. I have too many left-handed hitting outfielders who are all ready for the major leagues, and I've shopped some of them around but haven't gotten anything remotely decent. So I've got a very crowded situation there, and now one of them can hop in and start for me. Colin Hall is one guy. He actually was up for part of last year, and in 140 plate appearances put up a 142 runs created plus. So he's got the inside track on the job, and because he definitely deserves a shot after what he did last year. But the problem is I can't just hand him the job because here I've got Daniel Cabrera, who, as you can see, has put up killer numbers in the minors. He even got 58 plate appearances in 2024 and was a 127 runs created plus. He deserves a shot. Riley Green has not really gotten much time in the majors, but last year in Norfolk put up a 138 runs created plus. Another guy who's ready for the job. And, that's the wrong guy. And Jordan Williams is a guy who came out of nowhere. He was kind of a defense-first guy for me that I got from Toronto back in 2023. But then last year between Bowie and Norfolk put up, 118 to 129 runs created plus. He's in the mix as well. All 4 of these guys deserve a shot, but my outfield is just kind of stacked, and I've tried to deal them around or, shop them around a bit, but just haven't gotten anything decent. So Norfolk will be stacked with a very left-handed but very potent outfield lineup. And then I did decide to hold on to Trevor Larnach. I know I talked about I was going to need to trade him to bring in a right-handed bat to be better against lefties, but at the end of the day, I just didn't get anything remotely near a good enough offer for a guy who has been one of my best hitters the last few years. So that's the team on offense for now with a position battle there in right field. Oh, and Bannon will be a backup infielder, and then the other backup infield job will be between Cal Conley, who was up for me after I dealt for him from the Yankees last year, and he put up a 99 runs created plus and 81 plate appearances towards the end of the year for me. And then Simmons, who was another guy at the trade deadline. In a lot of those deals, remember, I was trying to get right-handed hitting infielders because I was short on them at the top end of my system. So Simmons has not played in the majors yet, but he put up a 132 runs created plus in Norfolk last year. he's probably ready. So those two guys are battling for the last infield spot, but they've both been terrible for the first half of spring training. So one of them maybe will back into the job. Pitching side of things, Stapler and Stone are battling for the fifth starter spot. Stapler, of course, is the veteran I traded for at the trade deadline last year because he's a decent pitcher and he's cheap. Stone was my fifth starter for much of last year, but then really fell off in August and really lost. I think he wasn't even in my rotation by the time playoffs came around, but I've got some hope for him still. And then Feltman and Little, they've been at the back end of my bullpen for a while now. Barlow and Castillo, the two new arms. Hall, my number four starter the last couple of years, but lost his job last year. His first half was terrible. And then he pitched great out of the bullpen for me. So I'm going to keep him there. I think he's going to be a good shutdown arm for me out of the bullpen. Corrigan was a draft pick of mine in 2021 who pitched well out of the bullpen for me last year. Robertson pitched well out of the bullpen for me last year. And then Hess, Verberg, and Zebron. Hess was a minor league free agent signing. Verberg was a draft pick in 2020. Zebron was a Real O's draft pick in 2018. They're all probably going to end up in Norfolk for me because Mitchell, Stone, or Stapler will be my eighth bullpen arm below Robertson here and be my long man. So all three of these guys will probably be in Norfolk and be the guys I cycle onto the roster and need fresh arms. So that's where the position battles are in right field, the infield spot, and this is pretty much wrapped up except who will start, Stapler or Stone. It'll probably be Stone because he's younger and has more promise. And my next post, I'll do a season preview post once I finish spring training with all the preseason predictions and where we're predicted to finish and who made the team, etc. But that's where things stand after the offseason with the big Patino trade and some other signings.